What's going on, people? Jason here, and I recently watched the Apple event announcing the iPhone 16 series, and today I want to offer my thoughts on the base models, the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Plus. Now, I've already made a video on the Pro models, and I actually split my coverage of those devices into two categories, things I like and things I don't like. I'm going to do the same in this video, but with the Pro models, and those being the best Apple has to offer, I started with the dislikes since the standards should be higher with those phones. But today, since these are the phones that probably most people will buy or most people should buy, I'm going to start with the likes and then we'll get into things I didn't like as far as new upgrades go after that. So, the first thing I like about these new phones is the new design, where for the most part it's really just taking the cameras on the back and pulling them outside of the square they used to hold them and rearranging things into a vertical pill. Now, as far as the new design goes, the vertical cameras is something I give a thumbs up to, and it's almost like a homage to the iPhone 10 and some of the phones that came after that with that pill arrangement. And the new design also comes with some more colorful and vibrant color options. They're actually behind me right here. We got black, white, pink, teal, and blue. And the colors are looking real nice this year. I'm glad that Apple finally found some ink in their printer to put on the backs of these phones. The next like I got with these phones is the action button, and the action button getting added from the iPhone 15 Pro onto the base iPhone 16 models. To jog your memory, the action button is just a regular old button similar to the power button and volume button, and it's a customizable button that allows you to perform any sort of action you may want. You can start a voice recording, start any shortcut you want from the Shortcuts app, or of course just open any app you may select from what's on your device. So, extra button, it's one of those things that's good to have, can't complain about it, and that's why it's on the likes list for iPhone 16 features. The next thing I like about the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus is the A18 chip, not to be confused with the A17 Pro chip and the A18 Pro chip. Those are in the iPhone 15 Pro and 16 Pro respectively. But the A18 is a new chip, technically speaking, for the base iPhone 16 models, and it offers some improvements in performance, and of course, AI capabilities, which it's another one of those things I gotta push down further in the list. That'll be in the form of Apple Intelligence that I'll talk about in a minute. But the A18 chip, despite having a new name and an incremental increase in the number from the A17 chips, actually is super similar to the A17 Pro. So if you remember in previous years where Apple would steal the chip from the Pro model and put it in the following year's base iPhones, that's basically what's going on here. And actually the Antutu score of the A18 is like 1% lower than the A17 Pro. Really, that's just an artifact of benchmarking, so it's really on the same level as the A17 Pro as far as general performance. And I have seen that technically there's a little bit of reworking or some changes to small bits of the architecture, so how everything's put together and not necessarily, the overall performance picture. I think that more so has to do with AI. But really the big picture view on this A18 chip is just that it is the A17 Pro brought into the iPhone 16, but the A17 Pro was super powerful, and so that performance is just coming to the iPhone 16, 16 Plus, and that's a good thing. The next thing I like about the base iPhone 16 models is the better battery life. Now, going off the event graphic behind me with the tiles, that tile right there says big boost in battery life, and that's, in typical Apple fashion, not telling us exactly what the milliamp hour increase in battery capacity is, or really even telling us like optimization-wise, is there improvements? And jumping out of what Apple says pertaining to battery life, I found through third-party sources that were looking at about 6% increase on the 16 and 16 Plus in terms of battery capacity. But yeah, an appreciable single-digit increase to the battery capacity. It's always good to have better battery life, and the iPhone 16 should have slightly better than the previous generation. And as the next thing I liked about the base iPhone 16 models, and kind of relating to the battery capacity, we got a faster wireless charging speed, going from 15 watts to 25 watts, and for me, as someone that actually does use wireless charging for topping off the tank and filling things up, like leaving it on overnight, this will be good to get more battery faster. Alright, and kind of making our way toward the end of the things I like to list, but also toward the most important thing being Apple Intelligence. The second to last thing is the new ceramic shield glass we got on here, which is 50% tougher. Apple's not always the most forthcoming with numbers, and when they do use numbers, we're pretty commonly unsure about what exactly they mean. So 50% tougher, what does tougher mean? I'm not exactly sure, but as far as Apple's proprietary glass for iPhones goes, this should be better than the previous generation. As we make our way down the list of things I liked with these base iPhone models, we got two features specifically for tweaking your experience with audio that's recorded in videos, and also the photos you take through the camera, being audio mix and photographic styles. Now, audio mix takes advantage of the 4 mics that we got in the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus to capture more of a 3D space when you're recording video, understanding where certain audio is coming from. And then when it comes to looking at that and editing things after recording, you'd be able to kind of change the audio space. So as an example, you could enter the studio mode, which kind of helps isolate just the speaker, like the main person that's really talking in the video, and kind of help drown out the background noise and add effects onto the audio to make it resemble something that was recorded in a professional studio. And similarly with the photographic styles, you'd be able to apply something a little bit smarter than just throwing a filter onto the photo. It's almost similar to HSL adjustments if you're familiar with like professional photo editing, where specific colors or certain parts of the photo have different treatments from the rest. That's just kind of the thought process with these things, where they're more than just laying on a filter, laying on a certain color onto the photo, but really allowing you to kind of pick an overall tone or overall color scheme that you want to shoot with when taking photos. And there's some nice looking ones that they showed in the Apple event. And also you have like a adjustment pad to adjust certain aspects of the photographic style to really dial into your own personal preferences and make the thing look exactly how you want. So a little disclaimer before I talk about Apple Intelligence as like a thing in its complete form. We don't get that complete form at the time of launch, and if you go to an Apple store and buy an iPhone 16 or 16 Plus today, it's not even going to have the new redesigned Siri on it, right? So at launch, these phones are far from in their most mature form with all the Apple Intelligence features that grace every part of the user experience. But I want to put Apple Intelligence in the likes category just because as a whole, it seems like a feature set that's going to enhance iPhones, and it's good to see Apple kind of finally, maybe being a little late to the game, but finally getting some AI stuff pushed out and in their phones. But I'll talk more about the delayed rollout schedule of these features later on in the dislike section of this video. But for the time being, just assuming hypothetically that Apple Intelligence was available in its entirety today, that's what I'm saying is a feature that I like. Alright, so first off, we got new writing tools system-wide across the iOS experience on your iPhone, and that'll allow you to do things like adjust the tone of what you're writing. You can also adjust wordiness and help compact and make things more succinct. You got a new grammar checker, in addition to word choice and sentence structure optimization to make sure your sentences have the most logical flow of thoughts. You can also just select text and summarize that using the AI, putting it to work to really give you the gist of what you got selected. And then in the phone app, you got the ability to now record phone calls, but then transcribe that and give you the entire kind of call log and everything that you talked about in that phone call. But then also you can put that AI to work and give you what I would kind of think of as like a Apple version of call notes from the Pixel, and just summarize things from the phone call, give you the most important details, whatever it may be, summarizing the most important bits of information from the phone call. In addition to that, you can now see a summary of your notifications with the help of an AI summary to kind of tie everything together. And then you also got priority notifications, so your phone's aware of what's being communicated through notifications that roll in, and if something seems more time sensitive or urgent than the other stuff on your lock screen, it'll float to the top the priority notification that the phone thinks is more important to you. And then following that, and actually in a similar vein, you got prioritized messages in mail for time-sensitive information, and it'll float those to the top of your inbox to make sure you're reminded of things that may potentially be urgent. And then also in mail, instead of having the preview of a particular email being like the first few lines of what's in the email, it'll use AI to generate a message summary, which should provide more of an insight into what's into that email instead of the first few lines, which, as you probably know, could be whatever, and not representative of the actual email's content. And then, making our way down the Apple Intelligence features, we finally make it to the new Siri, which is actually what Apple named the tagline of the iPhone 16 event after. They called it It's Glow Time, and this is after the new Siri having a cool little glowing animation that goes around the screen, the border of the screen on the phone, when you activate it. And it's funny because this particular feature, the new Siri, that they named the event around is actually not even available on the phones at release, but you know, we'll give it some time. We'll trust Apple that the new Siri, when it finally comes out, does do everything they said it would, and those features would be the following. So first of all, Siri is more conversational. It's able to maintain the conversation context for longer, and it'll also be better at understanding what you're trying to say if you're stumbling over your words or if you correct yourself. You can also type to the new Siri instead of just relying on your voice alone. And in addition to all those new input upgrades, you also have more of a contextual understanding from Siri. So if you ask it to pull up a picture of the burrito you ate last week, or pictures from your Orlando trip last month, like it can do things like that based on your photo gallery or your text messages or email. So that's cool. Also, it's aware of what's on the screen. So if you're looking at a particular pie recipe on your phone and you activate Siri and just start asking questions about it in a natural manner, it'll be aware contextually of what's on your screen and be able to answer relating to what it knows you're looking at. And finally, the new Siri can plug into ChatGPT to throw your prompt that way if it seems like something outside of Siri's wheelhouse, to hopefully get you more information or an answer to your query. Whatever the case may be, it'll throw up a notification or a bubble onto your screen. I think it asks you if you're okay with sending your prompt to ChatGPT, and then you got a quick, connection between these two services to get an answer to your problem. All right, so that's it for the new Siri, and after that, we actually got 2 more Apple Intelligence features to round out the theoretical, finished, complete Apple Intelligence feature set. The last 2 features of Apple Intelligence, if I was to split things up and, kind of micromanage, take certain parts of Apple Intelligence and put them in dislikes and put certain parts in likes, these last 2 features are actually things I would put in the dislike section if I was to split things up. But they are the Image Playground and Genmoji, and they allow you to AI generate images from scratch and make your own custom emojis with AI, respectively. And the reason I put these in the dislikes if I was to separate them from the rest of the features is just because generative AI, and specifically generative AI that has to do with making images, or even AI editing photos you already took, like what we saw with the Pixel, these are things I'm a little bit questioning of when it comes to, are people going to use this, first of all? And then the subtext to that is does this diminish human creativity? Does it make the world worse for artists and people that actually, make the original human art that these things get trained off? But here I'm kind of trying to be pragmatic about it. I'm really more so focusing on the features as a selling point. And I just don't see the ability to AI generate an image from scratch on your phone to be a super compelling selling point of the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus. But yeah, that rounds things out as far as what I liked with the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus. Let's talk about the dislikes. So the first thing I don't like with the 16 and 16 Plus is the screen specs that are pretty stagnated for this point in 2024. And I actually talked about this a little bit with my 16 Pro and Pro Max video, where I said 2000 nits max brightness is not crazy in the slightest for a flagship in 2024. But that applies with the base 16 models, where 2000 nits is not crazy bright. It's okay, it's acceptable, and it's more acceptable than the Pro models because these guys are cheaper. But more importantly than that, 60 hertz. A refresh rate of 60 hertz on an $800+ phone in 2024 is pretty crazy. And I understand Apple has an incentive, with a lot of things being crossover features between the base and Pro models these days, like the brightness I just mentioned, or like the RAM of these phones, so I understand Apple has to have something that distinguishes things. But 60 hertz and 120 hertz is a huge difference. You'd think 90 at the very least is something we could get, or, bridge the gap entirely and bring us up to 120 hertz like Google's done, having the same high refresh rate on both the base and Pro models. But regardless, Apple is not super motivated to do so because we still got 60 hertz, like probably one of the only 60 hertz phones that exists at this price point. And that's definitely not amazing by any means. Next up, we got spatial video and spatial photo, which is actually the technical reason that we got a camera redesign with things being pushed into that vertical pill as opposed to the square diagonal layout, and that's to allow the cameras to capture better depth information and ultimately come out with spatial video that captures more of a 3D environment, and spatial photo, which does the same as that, but for still photos. And both spatial video and spatial photo are specifically built for capturing memories that you're going to watch in your Vision Pro headset that costs $3,500. And that's the reason I put them in the dislike section of this video, simply because it's something not most people are going to be able to benefit from, and also a selling point for 1% of people. 1% of 1% of people that went out and bought a Vision Pro headset. Following that, the next thing I dislike about the iPhone 16 is the camera control. And I'm actually going to grab my 15 Pro to kind of help demonstrate things here. The camera control is basically a, first of all, touch-sensitive surface on the bottom right side of the phone that allows you to, using capacitive input, kind of swipe up or down to act as an input device for the phone, and specifically for controlling camera adjustments, whether it be depth of field in portrait mode, exposure, focus, or zoom. So it allows you to make fine adjustments to that. And then also, in addition to the sliding capacitive capabilities of this button control, you do have a pressability with this guy, where you can kind of press and hold down with a light amount of pressure, and that's a half input, so a half press, and you can press fully, and that's what actually triggers the mechanical like click to the button to take a photo or take a video. So you might be wondering, why on earth would I put an extra input or, an extra control in the dislike section of the video? So first of all, with the position of the camera control, if you're holding your phone like this in a horizontal position, you're going to want the camera control to be right here, the most extreme top right of the phone. And if you're holding your phone vertically, you're going to want it more so toward the middle, so right about here. And that leads to a discrepancy or a problem with the whole design of the camera control, where it just can't be in a comfortable position for use in both the vertical and horizontal position of the phone. In addition to that, I was also thinking about like the most useful circumstances where I'd really want a fine-tuning capacitive input to adjust some particular camera control. So like exposure, definitely not something I'm looking to fine-tune on a regular basis. I mean, to me, a smartphone is like the ultimate point-and-shoot camera where you just want to frame things up, worry only about the composition, and I guess maybe in certain situations pull focus by tapping. And all this led me to really think that the only situation I need a sliding adjustment for that the camera control would be useful for is adjusting zoom. And then when I thought about that more, I was like, okay, I'm really just tapping 0.5x, 1x, or 5x. I actually cannot think off the top of my head the last time I took a photo with an in-between zoom. There really is not much of a need at all for capacitive or sliding input for any particular camera adjustment, and so that's again, my second drawback with the camera control. And then last but not least, my last drawback with the camera control is just the fact that it is a mechanical button that's going to have a little bit of a shift or movement when you click it down all the way. And that's going to lead to potentially blur of the photo, but also think about like slight changes to the composition of your photo. Like, do you really want your photo when you click the button like accidentally rotated like a degree clockwise just because you use the camera control? I don't. And so yeah, third drawback with the camera control. This doesn't really meet the criteria for me of being helpful to your day-to-day life or really much of a meaningful improvement to the previous generation. I know that was a lot, but that's my thoughts on the camera control. All right, and then last but not least, as far as dislikes with the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus go, you probably expected it, you probably saw it coming from the way I was talking about Apple Intelligence earlier, but it's just the fact that Apple Intelligence has one of the slowest rollouts I've seen for something the company has made such a big deal about at launch. So again, the entire Apple event was themed around the glow time thing, which has to do with the new Siri, not available at launch. And also, Tim Cook at the beginning of the event said these are the first iPhones ever built from the ground up for AI. And what exactly does that mean when the Apple Intelligence features aren't even available at the time of launch? Does it mean like the sole purpose of these phones, or one of the main reasons that Apple built these phones the way they did, isn't really something you can take advantage of at launch? I mean, yes, I would say some of the most interesting features that Apple has to offer, and also what they've paraded around a whole bunch since WWDC, is just stuff that's missing, absent from these phones. If you were to go out and buy them today or tomorrow or a month from now, they still wouldn't all be there. Even stretching all the way into 2025, these rollouts are supposed to take to get to a fully fleshed out point. So that's not great, and that's something I got to give a pretty significant thumbs down to as far as iPhone 16 base model features are concerned. Alright, so that about wraps up everything I had to say about the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus, split into categories of things I liked and things I didn't like. Hopefully I was able to bring you up to speed in a slightly more interesting way than just going down the tech spec sheet and telling you what Apple says each upgrade would allow for. Do keep in mind this is my event coverage, so talking about these phones after the Apple event, but also before I get my hands on them. Every year I do go out and buy one of the new iPhones, and also Galaxy and Pixel, but I had a situation where people were under the impression I wasn't going to actually get my hands on the phone and review it, and so this is me letting you know this is my impressions and talking about the event, but also I'll get the phone, take it out in the field and use it and review it. But anyway, thanks for watching this video, subscribe down below for more quality tech videos, and I'll see you later.